Episode 1. The introduction.
Welcome to Not Really Hungry, the podcast that explores how to eat mindfully, lose weight, and change your life. Now here's your host, Tanya Blankenship.
Hey guys, I'm Tanya Blankenship, and I'm the host of the Not Really Hungry podcast. Not Really Hungry started out as my blog, and it's been around in various forms for about 10 years. But now I'm deciding to start a podcast because I just think it's a really great way to connect with people, and it allows more people access to the information that I have to share. I have thought about starting a podcast for years, but I always made excuses and I totally let my fear stop me. But not anymore, people. Here we go. We are doing this. Good or bad, it's happening. I'm excited to share this journey with you, and I'm really glad that you're listening. I personally love listening to podcasts myself because I can do it in the car or while I'm doing dishes or any number of things, but I will rarely take time to sit down and read through a blog because ain't nobody got time for that. So anyway, I figured you would want to know a little bit about me if you're going to listen to this show. So this episode is my introduction, but all future episodes will be more actionable and specific. We will cover tons of things because there are so many things in life that can affect our weight. First things first, I'm going to go over 10 questions that most people want to know. Question 1, what are my stats? We will be talking about weight loss after all, so I'm sure you want to know how much weight I've lost and all that good stuff. So at my heaviest weight, I was at 245.8. I could have been higher, but of course I avoided the scale, so who knows. But at my lightest, I was around 150. Currently, I'm at 181. Yep, that's right. I'm still working on it, and I did gain some back, and we'll get into all of that later. But I just want you to know that I'm right there with you. I know it can be a struggle. But I also feel like I have learned a lot over the years, and I have a lot of good things I can share with you. I'm no expert, and I certainly don't know it all. But I do know a lot of things that work and a lot of things that don't work. Also, I used to be a runner, and I started out completely inactive and worked my way up to running 2 half marathons and tons of 5Ks. I also used to really love kickboxing. I completely stopped working out when I found out I was pregnant 4 years ago, all out of fear. Do you see a theme here, people? Anyway, I'm going to work on getting back into the exercise when I'm ready. But for right now, I'm just focused on getting my mind right and making smart food decisions. Question 2, why did I pick the name Not Really Hungry? Well, I realized over the years that my weight issues were all related to eating for the wrong reasons and eating when I was not really hungry. I did not have the best coping skills, and I used to eat my feelings all the time. I would eat when I was tired, stressed, mad, sad, anxious, nervous. And guess what? Food never fixed any of that crap. I always felt even worse because my problems were still there, but then I also felt like a big old loser for being overweight and for turning to food to try to solve my problems. So feeling bad about my weight would lead me to eat more, which then led me to feeling bad. You get the picture. I know it makes no sense to eat more when you're feeling bad about your weight, but clearly my issues are emotional and not rational. Question 3, who am I? I'm in my 40s. I'm a wife, a mom to an adorable little boy, and a coffee lover. I work as a financial analyst, and I'm a total data nerd, but I'm also really passionate about helping others. Hopefully, my blog and my podcast is the vehicle for me to do that. And I really want to show you that you can change your life too. Question 4, when did my weight issues start? As far as my weight goes, I didn't really have a problem with my weight until my adult life. I was never thin, but I never really thought I was fat either. I was a size 14 all through high school and college. I played sports in I played sports in high school. And in college, I wasn't a big exerciser at all. Actually, the only exercise I got was walking because we had to walk everywhere because we didn't have cars. I think really the biggest reason I didn't gain weight back then was just that food wasn't my focus. I mean, sure, sometimes I ate when I wasn't really hungry, but it wasn't my top priority or something I was doing to escape. That came later. When I started dating my husband, Jim, I started gaining some more. We were getting fat and happy and going out to eat a lot and snuggling on the couch instead of being active. So I kind of started gaining then. And I do remember going shopping with him for my first size 16. That was a humbling experience, having to tell my new boyfriend that I was going up a size. Little did I know that I would skyrocket way past the size 16 a few years later. I'm getting ahead of myself, though. Once we got engaged, of course, I wanted to look my best for the wedding, so I joined Weight Watchers and was able to get down to a size 12 wedding dress. I felt amazing and had every intention of continuing with Weight Watchers, but 2 months after the wedding, all hell broke loose, and my mom had a major stroke, and that left her partially paralyzed. Her stroke wasn't why I gained weight, but it definitely is what started the downward spiral. I said before, I just really didn't have good coping skills, and a lot of crap started going down in my life, and I just didn't know how to deal with it, and I turned to food. So I'll try to give you the highlight reel so that this episode isn't 3 hours long, but if you want to read all the details, I'll put a link in the show notes. I do have it all written out on my blog, but after my mom's stroke, I was unhappy and unhealthy for the next 8 long years. It sounds crazy now to think about that it went on for that long, but it went on for that long. So after the stroke, my new husband and I moved into my parents' basement to help them. Of course, my mom needed a lot of help when she came home from the hospital, so I wanted to be there to help them, but it also allowed Jim to go to school full time. So I thought it would be great, and it really ended up just sucking. I was miserable most of the time. I started battling depression, and at one point it got so bad, I had started thinking about driving my car into a tree just because I wanted to escape. So we were there 4 years. I guess maybe when I got to my lowest point of depression, we realized that we needed at least to change our living environment. So we did, but in addition to all that was already going on with my mom and with me, Jim started having major back problems. That led to 2 surgeries and ultimately led to him being disabled and not able to work anymore. We had to file bankruptcy, and even after the bankruptcy, our finances were a mess. Money was tight, but we were also just not responsible with our money. And then my dad was also diagnosed with cancer. He had to have multiple surgeries, months of chemo. At one point, I had even considered splitting up with Jim, mainly because it just all felt too hard. I know nobody ever said life was easy, but I just wasn't prepared for it to be that hard. It just seemed like everything in our life was completely out of control. I was just so unhappy. I even remember one time we were out at Olive Garden and I had to walk through the whole restaurant from our table to go and use the restroom. No big deal, right? It felt like the biggest freaking deal to me because I felt like everyone was staring and laughing. I felt like I had neon lights on me or something, and that everyone was just saying, look, there goes the fat girl. Again, totally irrational, but in the moment, it felt real to me and it sucked. So I started avoiding social situations after that. And I was also in 4 different weddings, and I felt awful and ashamed in all of them. I kept telling myself I would lose weight for the next one. And of course, I never did because I was stuck in the shame spiral or whatever, but I just felt too crappy to do anything about it. I felt like I ruined their photos because I thought I looked gross. I couldn't enjoy myself with my friends and family at the weddings because I was just so miserable. The worst of it came when I was really close to completely screwing up someone's wedding because the dress didn't fit. Yeah, that's right. Like a week before the wedding that I was supposed to be in for my future brother-in-law, I try on the dress and my bridesmaid's dress didn't fit. And I'm not talking like it was a little tight. No, there was no amount of Spanx that was going to help this situation. It just wasn't happening. So I had to go on a hunt for a replacement dress. And of course, I couldn't exchange it. I had to buy a second dress. And they didn't have it at the store near me. I had to call around the entire country and ended up finding this stupid dress at a store in California that had to be rush shipped to me in time for the wedding. I mean, talk about feeling like a loser. That was horrible. So in addition to feeling sad and ashamed, I had a lot of anger. I was just mad about everything. I was mad about my mom's stroke. I was mad about Jim's back. I was mad about my weight. I was mad about our finances. Mad that I hated my job. Mad that we couldn't get the house we wanted. I mean, talk about a negative Nancy. If you look that up in the dictionary, there was my picture. I mean, I couldn't see the positive in anything during that time. When I was at my heaviest weight, even the smallest things felt like a big deal. Grocery shopping was like the worst. I mean, talk about angry. Like knowing that I had to do grocery shopping would make me angry. Going grocery shopping would make me angry. By the time I did the shopping, unloaded the car and put away the groceries, I was worn out. Like literally couldn't do anything else for the day. That made me angry too. Anytime I had to do yard work, that would make me angry. I thought it was just because I hated yard work so much. And I mean, granted, I do, and I still hate the yard work, but I know now that I was getting angry because it was so hard for me. And then I would get angry that it was so hard for me because it was all because of my weight. And I knew it shouldn't be that way, but I just couldn't find my way out of it. So moving on, let's get off the depressing part. Question 5, what motivated me to make a change? Well, ultimately, the kick in the pants came from a weight loss contest at work. I hadn't been in the job that long, maybe a year and a half. And so when they started this contest, I didn't want to be left out. I worked in a small office and it was like everyone else was doing it. So, peer pressure, I just went along with it. And I didn't want to be embarrassed by not losing. So I just went all in on Weight Watchers again. I thought, it worked before my wedding, even though I never made it to goal or maintenance, it worked. So I was going to give it a shot. So that's why I got in the door to Weight Watchers. But that is not why I was able to stick with it. I think I actually started changing because I was just so sick and tired of feeling bad and feeling angry. I knew that I wasn't really living and enjoying my life, and I was just over it. Like all those years, it felt like it was going to be so hard to change and so hard to do something about it. And I had finally gotten to the point where it felt worse to stay the same. I finally decided that I just had to face my fears and try something hard because it couldn't have been worse than what I was already living with, right? I mean, I let my fear hold me back for so many years, and it was just like, look, everything sucks. It can't get any worse. So you might as well try it. So that was, I feel like, the reason that the change really started happening. But I had to really commit. I had to decide what I really wanted and what I was willing to do to get there. And that part was really key because I wanted to lose weight for years, but I wasn't ready to do the work. And I feel like that happens to a lot of people. I mean, I've sat around with my friends before talking about how we want this and we wish we could do that, but we just weren't really ready to do the hard work. And I get it. I mean, I wasn't ready for the hard work for years. When you're depressed and you're unhappy, it's hard to be positive and believe that you can change your life. But you can. We all can. It's just a matter of changing your mindset and your mental outlook. Question 6, how long did it take me to lose the weight? I lost about 86 pounds in the first 15 months following Weight Watchers. And let me just say, I was like a maniac with the counting points. Like people would just think I was over the top because there was no eating something if I didn't know the points. I was very strict. And of course, now looking back, I realized that was part of my problem because who can live that strict forever? But regardless, that's what I did. Lost all that weight. I lost another 9 pounds and ended up at a total of 95 pounds. My goal had always been to lose 100 pounds. So I was always trying to lose my last 5 pounds, like always for years. And I could just never quite get there. That milestone for some reason just seemed unattainable to me. Question 7, how long did I keep that weight off? So after I lost that 95 pounds, I kept it off for a good 5 years. I was much, much happier and much healthier, but I still felt like I was always dieting. I had never hit my ultimate goal, and I had never really learned to live it as a sustainable lifestyle. I just didn't know another way. I thought I'd be counting points and measuring every bite for the rest of my life. And honestly, I was okay with that because, like I said, I didn't know another way. All I knew was I felt better and I was happier. And so if that's what I had to do to keep the weight off, I was going to do it. I mean, I felt like my life was consumed with it at times, like really over the top. That was all I thought about, but it made my life better. So I didn't really see it as a problem at the time. So the big question number 8, if I was so happy, why did I gain some of my weight back? Well, in 2015, I found out I was pregnant. And it was a surprise miracle pregnancy because we had tried to get pregnant in the past and we had fertility issues. We had been told 3 years earlier that we only had like a 1 to 3% chance of it happening naturally. So, of course, when we first found out, we were devastated, but we had grieved and moved on. I mean, 3 years later, right? And then out of nowhere, boom, guess what? I was actually in the middle of training for a half marathon and I couldn't figure out why I wasn't feeling well. And after I'd had a long run on a Saturday, and by Monday, I still wasn't feeling right. Like I was having nausea off and on. That following Wednesday, it still continued. So I knew something wasn't right, but I just kind of thought I had a stomach bug or something. And then we were in the car one night driving home, and all of a sudden I looked at my husband and said, "Why can I smell your deodorant?" And it was so weird, but it was like in that moment we both knew like, oh crap, like something is definitely off. So we were on our way home at that time, and instead of going home, he went straight to Walgreens and got the test, and we found out. So it was amazing. And of course we were excited, but because it was so unexpected and because of all of our fertility issues in the past, we were terrified. We just, at least me for sure, I just knew something was going to go wrong. I mean, when you have that small of a chance of getting pregnant and it happens, like all the crazy started coming back where I was like, well, if there's a 1% chance of me hurting my baby by running, then it could happen to me because I was the 1% that got pregnant and, you know, all that crazy stuff. So anyway, I just freaked out. I was terrified. So I stopped running. I was like, well, forget the half marathon. Forget it. You know, I'm not running because, you know, with my luck, it'd be the one time and I'd lose the pregnancy because I was running or something. And, you know, I always had a vision of having a fit pregnancy and like being one of those cool people that you see at a race, like running with the baby bump and like, you know, the shirt with the baby's first race and all that stuff. That was like my vision. But when the time came, like, no, my fear just won out and I wasn't going to do anything that I thought could hurt the pregnancy. And then on top of that, they basically kick you out of Weight Watchers when you get pregnant. Like you can't even sit in on meetings when you're pregnant. And I get it. It's a liability for them. I mean, I understand it, but I had built like my entire lifestyle around Weight Watchers and counting points and the meetings. And like that was my support system. I hadn't really learned to be my own support system. I mean, I had a lot of good habits, but really, like, Weight Watchers was kind of my crutch. So once that was taken away, like I sort of fell apart. Like I was scared of eating too much. I was scared of eating too little. I was scared that I would hurt the baby. I knew gaining too much was bad, but then like I didn't want to diet while I was pregnant because like everyone says that's the worst thing you can do. And like it was just a total roller coaster of emotions. And then on top of that, like I wasn't feeling good in the beginning. I was nauseous a lot. And thank God I didn't actually have the vomiting that some people do, but I just felt nauseous a lot. And like the only thing that sounded good were carbs. And prior to me getting pregnant, like I didn't eat a ton of bread and pasta. I mean, it wasn't off limits, but it just wasn't a big part of my diet. So, I stopped all my working out, started eating tons of bread and pasta and not too much salad because frankly, just the thought of salad made me kind of nauseous at times. So, I mean, it's no wonder that I gained the weight back, but that's what happened. Like, it wasn't like I backslid, so to speak, but my life just got turned upside down. And once again, I didn't have the coping skills to deal with it because I hadn't learned how to make it my lifestyle. So that being said, question 9, why didn't I just lose the weight again? I had been so successful before, right? I mean, seems like a no-brainer. Well, after my son was born, I did go back to Weight Watchers for a while, and I lost some of the pregnancy weight, but I was still hovering around like 200 pounds, which is still 50 pounds heavier than my lowest weight. I gotta tell you, I found it so much harder than I had in the past. I mean, first of all, pregnancy hormones are no joke. I was super emotional, and I didn't really have good maternity leave at my job, so I had to go back after 6 weeks, and that was a mess. I mean, I had such limited time with my baby, and it was like when I was not at work, there was no me time or free time. Like, if I wasn't at work, I was with my family. I was with Landon and Jim, and that was it. All I wanted to do was be with my son, Landon. What worked for me in the past just wasn't working anymore. I had tried counting points and calories, but I couldn't stick with it. I really didn't want to take the time to do the work that I thought I needed to do in order to lose the weight. I was just not willing to make weight loss my main focus in life anymore. I mean, and rightfully so, right? I had a beautiful new baby boy. Like, I couldn't spend all my free time calculating points and measuring every stinking bite that I put in my mouth. So I get it. And so I'm trying to, not beat myself up too much in that regard, but it was still super frustrating because I felt like I knew what I needed to do and I just couldn't get myself to do it. So I had kind of just like given up and I wasn't really doing anything because the few times that I had tried counting, it just felt too hard and I didn't know what else to do. So I was just like, whatever, this is me. This is who I am as a mom, right? Well, I changed jobs in early 2019 and I really started wanting to get healthy again. Landon was a little older, so he didn't need my attention quite as much. And I had started getting better about letting go and not having to be with him every second. So I thought, okay, now I can do it. So I tried counting calories and like I was just hungry and miserable. And I quit after like 3 days. I was like, well, this just isn't happening. I can't do this. So I felt like I was back to where I started and just didn't know what to do. So question 10, where am I now? Obviously, something's changed if I'm starting the podcast and getting back to my blog, right? Well, I can't even tell you how different things are right now. A friend of mine told me about a podcast that she thought I would like. Thank you very much, Beth, by the way. The podcast is called Losing 100 Pounds with Fit and Fat. I listened to a couple episodes and I knew immediately that chick just made sense. Like, I felt like what she said would work for me. I'm going to put some links in the show notes if you want to check that out yourself. Just be advised, she does have a potty mouth, so if that bothers you, it might not be a good fit for you, but the message that she shares is fantastic. So in addition to the podcast, she has a free course on her website. So I took her free course and I literally started following it like on a whim. I mean, I had no expectations. I didn't set goals. I didn't get my hopes up. I didn't even go to the store and like shop for my, quote unquote diet food. I started super small, but that's what Corinne with Fit and Fat teaches you to do. And honestly, like, what did I have to lose? What I was doing wasn't working and I wasn't getting anywhere. So, why not try something different? I figured it was worth a shot. the reason that I think I just jumped in was because she made it super simple. Like I've always overcomplicated things and wanted to go overboard and making everything perfect on the first day. And that is like just total crap and totally unrealistic. But like, that's me. I'm a planner. I'm an over planner probably. And I'm the kind of person that like wants certainty and wants to know the outcome. And I don't know. I've always been that way, but that wasn't working. So I was like, well, you know what? Maybe someone that is completely different from me, maybe that would work because what I was trying wasn't working. So anyway, I started focusing on like super small things. The very first thing I did the very first night was just made a plan for my food for the next day. And that I got from her free course. But like, it wasn't, figure out how many calories it's going to be, figure out the healthiest thing to eat. It was literally just go look in your fridge and write down what you're packing for your breakfast and lunch tomorrow. And, oh, you already know what you're having for dinner because you bought it at the store. So like, that was it. Like super simple. Just write it down and then stick to it. Okay. Seems way too simple. And how could that possibly be enough? But it was. And the other thing was that once I got started, all the good habits that I had developed when I was following Weight Watchers came back. Yes, I feel like counting points was hard, but I had also learned a lot of great skills when I was doing Weight Watchers. So those things were still there in the back of my mind, but they were just buried behind all this negativity. So the big difference now is that I'm not counting points or calories, and I'm finally learning to listen to my body. I'm figuring out when I'm hungry and when I'm not really hungry, and I'm not eating through my feelings anymore. I can make commitments to myself and stick to them because it feels livable. I don't feel like I'm on some restrictive diet that I just have to like get through and use willpower. It's not like that at all. I give myself flexibility. I still plan quote unquote treats, and I don't feel like I have to eat a bunch of crap that I don't like, and I don't feel like I have to go hungry. And it's amazing. So I've lost 25 pounds in 3 months, and it felt mentally easier than any of the time I was losing weight before. I tell you, like working on this mental crap and getting my emotional eating under control is golden. Like that is really the game changer here, is that I'm finally figuring out the emotional crap behind it. And I thought I had done some of that before when I was losing weight, but looking back, I realized that I didn't focus on the mental part enough. I focused on the numbers. How many points did I have to eat? How much did I lose each week? Like I was really hung up on the numbers. This time around, I'm not. Yes, I'm seeing success on the scale, and that's amazing, but that's not my focus. So I think that is making a huge difference too. So my goal for this podcast is really to help you. I want to share all the information that I learned over the past 10 years. I want to share what I'm doing now, and I want you to believe that you can do it too. It doesn't have to be so hard, and absolutely should not be perfect. So if you're a perfectionist like I was, you're going to have to get over that, because being a perfectionist doesn't get us to our goal. Having failures and having stumbles is how we learn and grow and get better. So that might be something you have to work on, getting comfortable with making mistakes. It's okay. The other thing is, small changes really do matter. And we so many times will tell ourselves something's not good enough, or, I should be eating perfect chicken and broccoli, 1,200 calories a day. And like, you just can't hold yourself up to that unrealistic standard. You need to be able to find a way to make this part of your life so that you can stick with it. So I also want you to know everybody is welcome regardless of your eating style. It doesn't matter to me if you're following Weight Watchers, Fit and Fat, low carb, keto, gluten-free, whatever. Everybody's welcome here, and you will not be judged for how you choose to eat, because we all struggle with similar emotional issues, and we can tackle those together. All right, guys. Well, that's it for episode 1. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed learning about my background, and I am super excited to share my thoughts and ideas with you going forward in future episodes. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Not Really Hungry podcast. If you have any questions or comments, please email podcast@notreallyhungry.com. or leave a voicemail at 330-595-4662. If you want to hear more from Not Really Hungry, check out the blog at notreallyhungry.com, where you'll find even more ways to eat mindfully, lose weight, and change your life.